British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is in Israel today. He is meeting with the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, and President Isaac Herzog. Speaking ahead of that visit, Sunak said the deadly blast at the hospital in Gaza should be a watershed moment to avoid another dangerous escalation of the conflict. And after the deal to open the Rafah border crossing for limited humanitarian aid, he is set to urge the opening of a route to let British nationals trapped in Gaza leave. Here's more of what he had to say today in Tel Aviv.
We will stand with Israel. We will stand with you in solidarity with your people and your right to defend yourself, to bring security back to your country, to your people, to ensure the safe return of the hostages that have been taken.
Rishi Sunak's visit to the Middle East coming just one day after U.S. President Joe Biden was there for a quick, lightning 8-hour visit. And we're going to talk a bit more about those two visits with Angela Diffley, who joins me on set. Angela, Rishi Sunak's message very much in line with Biden's yesterday. What are they trying to say to the leadership in Israel?
A lot of people are commentating and describing it as tough love, which in a sense it appears to be a very clear message from Sunak and Biden that they are solidly behind Israel and its right to defend itself. But Biden, because let's face it, he's the most important one, Biden said do not fall into the trap that the United States fell into. Don't make the mistakes the United States made after 9/11. He described them as mistakes. And he is telling them to be mindful of the damage to Israel's reputation and as mounting civilian casualties go up. And he's also describing to them how after the United States went into Iraq and Afghanistan, there was no clear end game. He apparently has said to them, what are your military objectives? You need to be very clear what they are. If you wipe out Hamas, what might emerge in its place? Because Hamas is, above all, an ideology. And if new people rise up and espouse the same ideology, not very much has been solved. So he has said, what are your objectives when you've wiped them out? How do you see this playing out? And apparently he also said to them, he discussed alternatives to the ground offensive. It's been widely assumed that Israel will go in and put boots on the ground. And apparently Biden told reporters that he had discussed the idea of alternatives to a ground offensive. We don't know what that might be, but he is telling them very clearly, be clear what you want to get from this, while saying the United States stands behind you.
Right. And Joe Biden, as Rishi Sunak, either spoke to or will be speaking soon to Arab leaders by phone for the most part. What are they hearing from that?
Yeah, I think the first thing to note is that Israel, unlike its neighbours, is a democracy. And while Israel has to be mindful of its own population and what its own population thinks, many of these Arab leaders do not. And some of them have been put in place after coups, and they are very wary of the Arab street and any likelihood of being overthrown. I think it's probably worth looking at two particular cases, Egypt and what is happening on the West Bank amongst Palestinians there. The Egyptian leader, of course, Fattah al-Sisi, came to power after overthrowing the Islamist government there, which is allied to Hamas. He does not want to see any infiltrators from Hamas in Sinai, in that part of Egypt. It would simply import the problem. Probably neither do his countrymen. But at the same time, they feel solidarity and sympathy when they see the mounting casualties amongst ordinary Palestinians. But he will be very wary of the Arab street. It's hard to know exactly how much support the Palestinians have in Egypt, because we see people on the street. We don't know what people in their houses are thinking. The other key area which is of great concern to both Biden and to Sunak is the West Bank, run, of course, by Mahmoud Abbas, who has very little legitimacy now. Already he's lost control of Jenin and other parts of the West Bank. There is a new young guard who think he has pretty much facilitated Israel's occupation of the West Bank, and they have no time for him. A demonstration yesterday in support of the Palestinians of Gaza turned into calls for Mahmoud Abbas to get help. So he will be worried about his position.